Hey guys, Dan here with Billetproof Designs, and today on Billetproof Bikes, we're going to go over my 1978 CX500. So we decided to do this new video segment called Billetproof Bikes because every time we go to an event or post some pictures from a ride, people would ask us questions about our bikes, and we figured why not put together a series of videos about not only Billetproof and its employees, but their bikes. So not only the bike itself, but the build and maybe the backstory to it. So this is the first segment. My name is Dan. I've been with Billetproof since day one. Damien reached out to me years ago with this idea, and I obviously fell in love with it. And in the beginning, we were working out of his house. The office was in his guest room. The warehouse and shipping and receiving was the shed in the backyard. The machine shop was in the garage, and we operated like that for years until we eventually moved to another shop. Hired another guy, worked there for a couple years, and then moved to our current shop and hired another guy. So we're still a small company, but it's been really exciting to kind of watch the company grow throughout the years and become what it is today. I really got into riding because of Billetproof. I was always into cars. My dad rode motorcycles. He had hot rods, and I was always working on something, creating something, drawing. But when I started here, we would go to events and I would see all these wild, bikes that guys were making, and customers' bikes that we would make parts for. And I just thought, all right, I need to build my own bike. So I actually found this bike for about $900, and it was barely running. So basically, rebuilt the carbs, put a new battery in it, plugs and wires. Got it running right. And Damien and I went on a trip. We went to northwestern PA. It was about 700 miles over the course of like 2.5 days, which I'm sure that's not a lot to most of you riders out there. But for me, it was my first ride, my first real ride. I had about 40 miles under my belt prior to that. So I was really able to learn a lot about myself as a rider, a lot about the bike, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, what I wanted to change, how I was going to change it, so that when I got back, I just started drawing and just started coming up with ideas and kind of piecing the bike together in my mind. And then I actually had to buy a shed and some more tools. I had standard tools, but nothing for metal fabrication or anything like that. So once I was up and running, I started kind of cutting it up and getting started on it. So I'll start from the front and work my way back. The front end is from an 06 CBR 1000RR. It's pretty stock. Really, the main things I did was I made lower headlight mounts. Headlight mounts that would bolt to the lower triple clamp, because I couldn't use the fork clamp style because I didn't have enough room with the tank. The clamps would actually get in the way. The other thing was I didn't want to use the CBR wheel. I wanted to keep the stock CX wheels, which for all you purists out there, I'm sure you realize that these are not the stock 78 CX500 wheels. These are actually the later model wheels. And the rear wheel is actually the larger 18-inch wheel from the European models. I actually kept an eye out for one of those for like 6 months on eBay, and when it popped up, I just jumped on it. I didn't care what the price was. It was actually a pretty good deal though. So in order to retain the stock CX wheels but run the CBR front end with the ridiculously overkill 330 millimeter Ducati EBC rotors, basically had to make caliper spacers to be able to fit around the rotors, wheel spacers to center the wheel, and then rotor adapters that would allow me to bolt those rotors to the CX wheels, but also space them out for the calipers. Other than that, that's pretty much sums up the front end. It's a pretty easy bolt on as far as, you know, just getting the right steering stem bearings and whatnot. Moving over, this is the stock tank. I just D8'd it, and I actually hand sanded this stripe in the tank. It actually goes all the way back to the rear cowl of the bike, just to give it a little bit of contrast, but nothing too flashy. As you can see, the tank is raised up. So once I cut the subframe, I cut the welds where the subframe welds to the backbone of the bike, lifted that up, retacked it. The subframe, I made a subframe out of PVC pipe first, and then bent everything, coped it all, got it all clamped up, and then Damien worked his magic with the welder. I don't weld yet, so he took care of that for me. Most of the electronics are under the seat, and just some custom electronics box that I made to fit under the seat. I've got the billet-proof tag mount here, the Cafe X-Brace tag mount. The seat, I was in a hurry when I was finishing up the bike, so I made the seat actually out of gaff tape. It took a ridiculous amount of time to do it, and it actually looked pretty cool for a bit, and then obviously it started to get weathered, and so I made a seat pan and sent it out. I basically told them I wanted it to look like the tape seat, but with leather, and then that was it. I just made the leather straps for it so I could wrap it around the subframe and bolt it to the bike. Let's see. Oh, I like the monoshock. I know it's been done 1,000 times, especially in the CXs. I like the look of it. I just made all the brackets and everything by hand. Just cut it on a bandsaw, ground them down, and tacked everything together with a Harbor Freight welder, and then brought it into the shop. Again, had Damien finish weld everything. Mac 2-in-1 exhaust that I wrapped and cut up. A cheap muffler that I also cut up and sleeved to work with this exhaust, made a exhaust clamp. The tool bag was a bag I found. It was just a wax canvas bag that I really liked, that would accept the tools that I needed for this bike, which was not many. And I just made a mount, and again, the leather straps to bolt it to the side of the bike. And other than that, I updated the charging system to MOSFET with Ignitec ignition. I actually tried to run a lithium-ion battery on this bike with a stock charging system, and it did not like that, and swelled and smoked, and it was ridiculous. But once I updated everything, the bike runs better than it ever has. All right, now that we've got the bike outside, I can go ahead and start it up for you so you can hear it. All right, that's it for our first segment of Billet-Proof Bikes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and definitely check back because we're going to have a lot more of these videos coming out soon. Thanks for watching.